It appears that Africa and Nigeria in particular are not well suited for the very expensive presidential system. The role of opposition parties is central to the strength and sustainability of democratic institutions. They are meant to serve as a check on ruling governments, ensure accountability, stimulate political participation, and provide alternative policy options. In Nigeria, however, the opposition is rudimentary at best, as the presidential system ensures a winner-takes-all approach. There should be opposition members line up to the camp to whichever party is ruling. The possibility of getting political appointments is higher if in the legislature, chairmanship or membership of the so-called juicy committees will be assured. In contrast, in the United Kingdom, for example, the leader of the opposition holds an official position and leads the shadow cabinet, strengthening oversight and offering alternative visions. Special sessions, such as the Prime Minister's questions, allow opposition to challenge the government directly. In Nigeria, even for those who do not want to cross carpet, intimidation and suppression is commonplace at all levels. The presidential candidate of the Labour Party in the last general elections, Mr. Peter Obi, claimed he was blocked from visiting Benue State by the governor. Obi claimed he was going on a humanitarian visit to IDP camps and schools, but the Benue State government said the trip was unscheduled and could not guarantee Obi's safety. It's pathetic that the security of a high-profile individual like Obi will be in jeopardy simply because he's in the opposition. It's no wonder we have such high numbers of Nigerians living in IDP camps in their own countries, particularly in Benue State. It's all about politics. If shadow cabinets were institutionalized in Nigeria and Peter Obi was a leader with some oversight on appropriations, I wonder if his safety would have been better guaranteed. Things cannot continue as usual. Radical changes are required, and the only radical changes that will not result in bloodletting will be a return to the parliamentary system of government, the institutionalization of shadow cabinets, legal and electoral reforms to empower INEC to enforce fair rules, as well as to curtail cross-carpeting to enhance party stability, as well as civic education and media freedom.
I mean, we don't have an opposition, and you're very clear. But I also disagree with you that an opposition has to be institutionalized. So in the parliamentary system it is. But in the presidential system, it's really if you have clear different ideologies. Our challenge is plus APC plus PDP plus all of them, they're birds of the same feather.
We don't have political ideologies in Nigeria. We have personal interests.
Yeah. So it's very easy, as someone would say, to be APC in the morning, PDP in the afternoon, and Labour in the evening. That's one. Number two, even if you see opposition as a route to power, which is what APC did, there's a way that you are opposition that means you engage the affairs of the state. And so you're providing an alternative and saying, if I were in power, I would do things differently. I would engage differently. This is what I would do. And we don't see that much. What we see is Atiku will release a statement every now and again. Peter Obi will do some social service type visits to IDP camps. Something happened, he will say something, and that's it. There's really no, I mean, like, if you want to be opposition, it needs to be back-to-back fire constant. And APC was very good at that. I mean, you still, if you spend time online, you will find statements, comments that is coming back to haunt them now because they spoke a lot. But we don't, I mean, they're not, and APC as a party, and maybe I dare say maybe Tinubu as an individual, understands the power of an opposition. And he has been very intentional about crippling Nigeria's opposition. APC is on a mission to have a one-party state. And they have been very intentional, in my view, and very deliberate about doing that. So if the parties are not fighting themselves internally, individuals are moving to APC. So you're depleting the individuals, and then the people that are left, they're butting heads. So they don't have time to engage the affairs of the state.
My challenge with your advocacy is this comparison between the presidential system and the parliamentary system. You're coming away with an assumption that somehow the parliamentary system is better, probably because it's maybe less expensive, and that it has this, this institutionalization of the opposition. Challenge here is, you might find yourself in a situation in Nigeria where you have a so-called parliamentary system where two parties come to form a government. And then the next day or the next week, all right, 2/3 of those parties defect to another party. And then you have to now dissolve that government and then do another election and all that. It's going to be chaos, essentially. If we don't, we have to come down to ask ourselves the question, what is the form of democracy that works for Nigeria? We have to have the courage to have that conversation. America has shown us right now that there's no moral standard for democracy. Whatever standard that America, the house on the hill, it's now nowhere. I mean, we know that there's no, and the reality is that nations that are supposedly undemocratic are actually doing very well, So Nigeria has to have the courage to have that conversation. What we need is democracy. It's not a question of the form of democracy. We need democracy. The question is we have to look at ourselves and then see what form of democracy works for us.
Yes.
True.
I don't know which form, but I think that we're intelligent enough to devise that ourselves.
Yeah, I agree with Yinka. We do a lot of copy and paste ideologies or practices in Nigeria, but it's important for us to localize whatever solution we are deploying. And in all of this conversation, it's quite interesting that the 1999 Constitution states that a member of the Senate of the House of Representatives shall vacate his seat in the House, of which he's a member, if being a person whose election to the House was sponsored by a political party, he becomes a member of another political party before the expiration of the period for which that House was elected.
The loophole is that if your party has a problem,
crisis,
so you see,
Yes.
they found
when the parties don't have problem. No, when the parties don't
Is
have
there a
problem.
party that does not have a problem?
No. In a way, no.
Anyway,
The law is also being clear around that. So let's just be clear. The provision is if your party is split, in a sense, and there were times where there were 2 APC camps with 2 APC chairmen or 2 Labour Party chairmen. That's a clear split. Not the fact that you have a disagreement.
How many minutes does it take to create a split? And I can just stand up and say I'm the new NLC chairman.
But it hasn't happened that way.
Let's
deal with the facts.
It does in many parties.
Most of the time, these things are engineered. The splits hardly happened unplanned. There is always someone engineering it.
It hasn't happened that way.
Sponsoring it.
Let's deal with the facts. It hasn't happened that way.
I agree with you all, because I think everyone is agreed that we need to decide what sort of system works for Nigeria. We have to look at our history, our society, and just determine what is the best for us. The parliamentary system, you say that the best, it would be a return to the parliamentary system of government, but it would turn everything on its head. We have to look at our constitution. There's just so much, get the buy-in of everybody. It's a lot. And I'm not sure that you can say there'll be no bloodletting, but yes. But I think we just need to find out which one works best. I think for me, that's the end bit. What works best for this country and determine what that is. And we have to look at our history, what has come before, and the society that we have now and what we want to achieve, what sort of society we want to achieve. And then we can then determine what kind of democracy will work for us.
As a matter of fact, Socrates described what is happening in the United States, where democracy will become to the highest bidder, and he will become so insolent that you'll be insulting the president of another country on live television, and that democracy is the second worst form of government, only after tyranny.
That you don't need opposition to be institutionalized to have an opposition.
I agree with that.
Opposition just needs to determine that they want to be opposition. But if you want to be at the table and be eating, if you don't want to stand for the people and stand contrary to the party in power, then you will compromise. And that's what our politicians have done, because as we started, there's no difference in ideology. They're all the same. So if being in opposition is not paying you, then you easily cross over. So